कृपा भरौ भुवि भुव भारा तारकौ वंदे रूप सनातन रघुजुगौ श्री जीव गोपालकौ वंदे रूप सनातन रघुजुगौ श्री जीव गोपालकौ कृष्ण कीर्तन गान कृष्ण कीर्तन गान नर्तन परम प्रेम वीर वीर जन प्रिय प्रिय करो निर्माण पूजित श्री चैतन्य कृपा भरौ श्री चैतन्य कृपा भरौ भुवि भुव मारव अंतरकौ वंदे रूप सनातन रघुजुगौ श्री जीव गोपालकौ विचारणैक निपुणं सद्धर्म संस्थापकौ लोकानां हितकारिणं त्रिभुवने मन्नं शरणं करो विचारणैक निपुणं धर्म संस्थापक लोकानां हितकारिणं त्रिभुवने मन्नं शरणं करो विचारणैक निपुणं तद्धर्म संस्थापक Lokanang Hitokarinang Tribhuvane Mannang Saranna Sri Chaitanya Kripa Barav Lokanang Hitokarinang Tribhuvane Mannang Saranna Karam Vicharanaikangunam Dharma Samsthapakam Lokanam Hitokarinam Tribhuvane Mannam Sarannakaram Radha Krishna Radha Krishna Padaravindav Bhajanamritav Radha Krishna Padaravindav Bhajana Nandela Mattalika Vande Rupa Sanatanam Raghujugav Sriji Krishna Kirtana Dana Natala Parau Prema Madhuri Veera Veera Janapriya Prema Madhuri Sri Chaitanya Kripa Bharau Ubibubba Maranta Rakau Bande Rupa Chanatanam Rakudidu Sadasure Chadasure Siddharajalakin Dharmisha Ajavadasa Jadagada Ranna Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yasodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Brajajanarandana Yasodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Jaya Utpataram Sabridbhajagacharya Sukharishya Small Nanda Gori Vaishnava Ki Jai Ramacharya Sridhar Thakur Ki Jai Names of the whole Sri Krishna Sri Radha Krishna Bhogavnath Sankund Radha Krishna Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Guru Dwarka Dham Ki Jai Swami the Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai All glory to the All glory to the Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please unmute yourself, Maharaj.
Difficult to tell.
Will you go on chat, Samana? Can you hear me?
Yes, Maharaj, we can hear you clearly, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
What is your good name, Prabhu?
Maharaj?
Your good name?
Kavi Kanapura Das.
Oh, there's Kavikanapura. I can't see because it's just the light behind is so strong.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Effulgence coming from behind you. So, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. You're welcome, Maharaj. So before you start, I would like to introduce you to devotees. I don't know, maybe you will have some time for me to do that.
Yeah, you do what you like. I mean, just anything's fine.
Okay, platform today. So His Holiness JANANANDA Swami Goswami Maharaj joined ISKCON was initiated by Srila Prabhupada in 1972. Maharaj has served in various countries around the world, but in the last few years, he has really dedicated himself to supporting the ISKCON France Yatra. For most of the lockdown, Maharaj has been serving at ISKCON New Mayapur, France, engaged in varieties of practical services and providing much support to the devotees in trying to maintain the project. Srila Prabhupada stayed in New Mayapur 3 times and installed Shri Krishna Balaram there. New Mayapur is a farm community, and the temple, which is an old French castle, is the only remaining ISKCON property in Europe, where Srila Prabhupada stayed. His Holiness JANANANDA Maharaj is an exceptional practitioner and exponent of Kirtan, Harinam, and book distribution in the line of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Maharaj's quick wit, humility, and loving personal nature is very uplifting and inspires us all to take shelter of the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Krishna. So thank you very much, Maharaj. We are very happy to have you. So without taking so much of your time, Maharaj, you can start the
Hare Krishna. Well, that was an updated introduction, old boy. That was a really good one. More in tune with what's actually going on. Thank you for your kind association. Thank you for giving us this chance to associate with the devotees there.
Thank you very much. More devotees are going to join as time goes on, Maharaj.
Is it? Okay, whatever. Even if they don't, we would still chant Hare Krishna. Can I chant a little bit to begin with? Is it okay?
Yes, Maharaj, please. The platform belongs to you. You can do as you wish, Maharaj.
Okay, great. Thanks. Haribo. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Okay, you better unmute. Unmute, rather. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaramani Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaramani Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaramani Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaramani Yashodanandana Rajajana Randana Yashodanandana Rajajana Randana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtataya Satishta A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Ananta Kota Vaishnavinda ki Ananta Kota Vaishnavinda ki Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki Prem Shekaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Shri Mayapur Dham ki Jagannath Puri Dham ki Ganga Maya ki Yamuna Maya ki Tulasi Deva ki Bhakti Devaki, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki, Lord Chaitanya's Harinam Sankirtan ki, Brihat Madanga ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Bhagavad Goswami Tirabha Mahotsav ki, Srila Parameshwari Tirabha Mahotsav ki, Srila Kashishvara Pandit Tirabha Mahotsav ki, Agor Premanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Garanga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Haribo, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane, Namaste Sarasate Devi, Gauravani Pracharine Nivasesha Sanyavari Pastichade Shatarine. Hare Krishna, everybody, wherever you are, in Togo, where else are you? In, I don't know, where is that one? Can't see it. All the different places in West Africa, I assume. And it's wonderful. I've never been to West Africa. I lived in East Africa for a year or two in Nairobi and in Uganda back in the 70s, in the early days. And I've been to South Africa. I've never been to West Africa, but I know a lot from my dear friend, Kavi Chandra Maharaj, who, of course, I presume you all know, who oftentimes we meet. So it's my pleasure to be with you today, and I hope we can share some nectar from Srila Prabhupada, from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the verse you've chosen today is a very special verse, as obviously you knew when you chose the verse. So let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees and fulfill the desires of everyone and are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Louder. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Okay, I'll read the line one by line, one line, and you can repeat in your own temple, home, wherever you are. Tad Vagvishargo Janataga Viplavo. Tad Vagvishargo Janataga Viplavo. Yasmin Pratishlokam Abhadavatyapi. Yasmin Pratishlokam Abhadavatyapi. Namam Yanantasya Yasonikitani Namam Yatandasya Yasonkitani Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sadava. Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sadava. And the word for word. Tat. That. Vak. Vocabulary. Visargaha, creation. Janata, the people in general. Aga, sins. Viplavaha, revolutionary. Yasmin, in which. Pratishlokam, each and every stanza. Abhadavati, irregularly composed. Api, in spite of. Namani, transcendental names, etc. Anantasya, of the unlimited Lord. Yashaha, glories. Ankitani, depicted. Yat, what. Shrinvanti, do hear. Gayanti, do sing. Grinanti, do accept. Sadavaha, the purified men who are honest. So we'll read through then the translation and purport, and then we'll try to discuss. And as we know from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the essence of absorbing or realizing the Srimad Bhagavatam is based upon hearing attentively. This is explained by Sutta Goswami in the 3rd chapter, and in many other places, of course. To hear, have you heard this attentively? Now he said, hear this with rapt attention, as I have heard it from my spiritual master. And in the Bhagavad Gita, we hear Krishna also say to Arjuna, have you heard this with rapt, have you heard this with attention? Have you heard this message? Have you heard it attentively? Because by hearing attentively, all one's doubts can be removed. The heart can become cleansed simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam regularly. This regular hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam is the medicinal process to cleanse our heart. It's not different than regularly hearing the holy name. But hear Krishna Katha regularly and carefully, hearing the sound of Srimad Bhagavatam purifies our hearts. So let us try to hear it now. English translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, pastimes, etc. of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Purport. It is a qualification of the great thinkers to pick up the best, even from the worst. It is said that the intelligent man should pick up nectar from a stock of poison, should accept gold even from a filthy place, should accept a good and qualified wife, even from an obscure family, and should accept a good lesson, even from a man or from a teacher who comes from the untouchables. These are some of the ethical instructions for everyone in every place without exception. So that's one point which Prabhupada is making here in this particular purport on this verse. Bearing in mind the line in the verse, even if improperly, miss the verse. Even though imperfectly composed, people may criticize sometimes when something is not perfect language. This is quite common. In philosophy, for instance, in the world of theism, in the world of scholastic world, they often criticize even the writings of our Srila Prabhupada, because according to their strict rules of Sanskrit, or according to grammar, whatever it is, it may not be perfectly composed by their estimation. But that's a completely mundane estimation. Srimad Bhagavatam is not mundane, and this verse confirms it, even though imperfectly composed. It is heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Unfortunately, people in this world today are not thoroughly honest. They have all kinds of dishonest motivations, selfish motivations, full of the unfortunate qualities of Kali Yuga. So they cannot appreciate, or neither are they eligible to understand the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, because they're seeing the Srimad Bhagavatam through perverted vision, through the filter of their own impressions within their own hearts, their own materialistic desires, their own materialistic conclusions, etc. So they cannot understand this message of Bhagavatam. And they try to measure everything according to their limited capacity. Srimad Bhagavatam is immeasurable. Only one who's on that platform can reveal Srimad Bhagavatam to the world. But the secret of revelation is by hearing. And Prabhupada, he describes in that purport to that verse in the 3rd chapter, if one hears with rapt attention, one will see Krishna on the pages of the Bhagavatam. It is not like by scholastic, speculative analysis that one will see Krishna. It is when Krishna is pleased and he reveals himself to us, when we are attentive in hearing his message. That transparent via media, Srila Prabhupada is giving us that opportunity to associate with Krishna through the media of Bhagavatam. Now we'll go back to the purport again. So these principles, ethical instructions for everyone without exception. If one finds gold in a dirty place, one should take it, etc. And even the knowledge, a wife from an obscure family, nectar from a stock of poison, and a good lesson, even from a man or from a teacher who comes from the untouchables, from any source. We shouldn't be so proud, but pride often keeps us lost in our ignorance in this material world that we are conditioned by, because of pride. But a saint, Prabhupada goes on to say, is far above the level of an ordinary man. He's always absorbed in glorifying the Supreme Lord, because by broadcasting the holy name and fame of the Supreme Lord, the polluted atmosphere of the world will change. And as a result of propagating the transcendental literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam, people will become sane in their transactions. While preparing this commentation on this particular stanza of Srimad Bhagavatam, we have a crisis before us. We've all got a crisis before us. It's not just a war or a pandemic. We all face this crisis at every moment. There's samashrita ye padavalava bhavam, bhapadam punya shomarari. There's danger at every step. We just don't notice it. Only when we're faced with something, then we may wake up sometimes. But there's danger in this world at every moment. Our neighboring friend, China, has attacked the border of India with a militaristic spirit. We have practically no business in the political field, yet we see that previously there were both China and India, and they both lived peacefully for centuries without ill feeling. The reason is that they lived those days in an atmosphere of God consciousness, and every country over the surface of the world was God-fearing, pure-hearted, simple, and there was no question of political diplomacy. There is no cause of quarrel between the two countries, China and India, over land which is not very suitable for habitation, and certainly there is no cause for fighting on this issue. But due to the age of quarrel, Kali, which we have discussed, there is always a chance of quarrel on slight provocation. I think we all know about that one, how easy it is to quarrel. Perhaps you've also experienced that wherever you are in the world. Even as aspiring devotees, sometimes we quarrel, isn't it? Sometimes it's there, we argue, we quarrel, sometimes we even fight. Now, this is the influence of Kali Yuga, because conditioned souls seeing themselves in the center of everything, naturally, when somebody interferes with our own sense enjoyment or our own philosophy, our own desires, etc., there can be this tendency to become very irritated. Very irritated. This is due not to the issue in question, but to the polluted atmosphere of this age. Bear that in mind. The very atmosphere is polluted everywhere. England, France, Africa, Australia, America, India, everywhere the atmosphere is polluted by so many things. Not just by, environmental pollution in terms of the externals, but internally. The radioactive waves, all the messages in the ether are almost unavoidable. So many energy in the ether, which is disturbing the minds of people, and it's meant to. This is Kali Yuga. And the things we watch, the things we hear, so much pollution is there of the consciousness of the living entity. And everything, the education says everything has its effect on the consciousness of the living entity, clouding our consciousness, making it very difficult to be peaceful, very difficult to be, happy and friendly, making people just disturbed just by being in a disturbed atmosphere. How can we be peaceful? Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental literature which has appeared in this world to give light in this dark age of Kali, to give some relief. Lord Chaitanya has come to give relief. Jeev Jago, Gaura Chandra Bole, Kotani Rajayo Maya, Pisha Chira Kole, Vajibo Baliya Se, Kongshara Vitare, Puliaro Hile Tumi Avidyara Bore, Tomara Loite Ami, Hoino Avatara, Ami Vina Bando Arake Ache Tomara, Eneche Osadi Maya, Nashibara Lagi, Hoinama Mahamantro, Layo Tumi Magi. Lord Chaitanya's brought the medicine to cure us of the disease. The diseases were all in Maya. Srimad Bhagavatam is a revolution to get us out of Maya. All the revolutions of this world are meaningless. They're just like taking the weight from here to there. They do nothing. It's just a different color of the same thing, a red flag or a blue flag. Now they have a blue flag in America. They had a red flag last time. There's no difference. Same problem is there. Birth, death, disease, and old age. Threefold miseries. People affected by the age of Kali. Ignorance. Everything's still there. What type of revolution is it? By changing the government. By changing it from capitalism to communism, from communism to some other ism. What difference does it make? People are still suffering. The world is still in a mess. There's still ignorance everywhere. Nobody has an idea of who they are, what the point of life is, why they're suffering. They try this, they try that, nothing works. Prahlad Maharaj said that their efforts to try to cure the problem are worse than the problem itself, because they don't know. It's like putting ourselves in a sinking boat, a boat of stone. It is destined to fail, no matter what we do, with all of the experiments, all of the medical advancement, the scientific advancement, you name it. Everything one thing that's certain is all going to fail, because everyone's going to die, and the world is, goes on, and it just goes on in the same ignorant way. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the only light to enlighten people in this age of Kali, who are absorbed in nothing but ignorance. Even in the name of religious pursuits, is 99.9% based upon material achievements, upon improving. It's like being in a prison house, and in the prison house, you're simply praying that maybe I can have a nicer cushion to lie on, or maybe I can have, please give me the strength to smash these stones. It's crazy. The world is in a crazy condition. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the light of intelligence, or the Bhagavad Gita, the intelligence to help us to come out of it. This is the only revolution. This is the only change. Revolution also has one sub-meaning of peace. It's the only thing which will bring peace to people's minds. There is no other way other than hearing Nivritatashi Upagimanat, Bhavoshiti Chotumanobi Ramat, Uttamashloku Gunanavadat. To hear the message of Srimad Bhagavatam is the only panacea. Tabakatamitam taptajivanam kaviviriditam kalmashapaham Shabanamangalam Srimadatatam Bhuvi Gunantide Bhuvi Jitanaha is the only relief for those suffering in this material world. There is no other panacea. Giving an injection does not solve the problem. Maybe it delays or covers the pain, but death, old age, disease, all these things are still there. Karma, it doesn't go away by sticking a needle in us. It increases the karma, in fact. Our karma increases by doing that. It's not solving anything. The root is not being addressed. Pruning a tree is all very well, but if it's a material tree, it just grows more and more. It's like pouring paraffin on a fire. It burns hard, higher and higher and higher. So what is the solution? We have to get down to the root. The root is that we've forgotten Krishna. The root is that we're in ignorance and consequently envious and full of material desires, and totally covered over by Maya. This is the problem. But people are not addressing it. Neither religion, philosophy, science, nothing. Nobody is even bringing it up. In fact, they're not allowed to bring it up. Keep that stuff out of it. That's just myth. We're not interested in mythology. We're interested in reality, they say. But their reality is a failure. It's an illusion, because everything comes to an end. So Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us the ultimate solution. And that's why this is a revolution. See, the word is mentioned here. Revolutionary. Viplavaha. Revolution. Srila Prabhupada is the real revolution. We'll read on. This is not due to the issue in question, but to the polluted atmosphere of this age. Systematically, there is propaganda by a section of people to stop the glorification of the name and fame of the Lord. They don't want it because it will stop their advancement in spirit, in material cheating, basically speaking. It will stop this ignorant, so-called progress, civilization, so-called civilization. They think this is success, but this is actually the cause of the problem for people. They don't want the glorification of the holy name, because people may wake up and realize what an illusion we're in. Well, how we're being cheated by cheats and cheating. Therefore, there is a great need for disseminating the message of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. It is the duty of every responsible Indian to broadcast the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the world, to do all the supermost good, as well as to bring about the desired peace in the world. Not only Indians, Bharata Bhumite Hoila Manushya Janmajara Janma Satakakara Kara Para Upakara, yes, every Indian, but everybody, Lord Chaitanya says, should make this their goal in life, to utilize this human life to preach Krishna consciousness. Because India has failed in their duty by neglecting this responsible work. There is so much quarrel and trouble all over the world. We are confident that if the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam is received only by the leading men of the world, certainly there will be a change of heart. And naturally, the people in general will follow them. The mass of people in general are tools in the hands of the modern politicians and leaders of the people. If there is a change of heart of the leaders only, certainly there will be a radical change in the atmosphere of the world. There are just so many points in this verse. I mean, we could spend an hour talking on every other sentence here. We know that our honest attempt to present this great literature, conveying transcendental messages for reviving the God consciousness of the people in general and re-spiritualizing the world atmosphere, is fraught with many difficulties. Our presenting this matter in adequate language, especially a foreign language, will certainly fail, and there will be so many literary discrepancies despite our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. But we are sure that with all of our faults in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration, and the leaders of society will still accept this due to its being an honest attempt to glorify the Almighty God. When there is fire in the house, the inmates of the house go out to get help from the neighbors who may be foreigners, and yet without knowing the language, the victims of the fire express themselves, and the neighbors understand the need, even though not expressed in the same language. The same spirit of cooperation is needed to broadcast the transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the polluted atmosphere of the world. After all, it is a technical science of spiritual values, and thus we are concerned with the techniques and not with the language. It is the techniques of this great literature if the techniques of this great literature are understood by the people of the world, there will be success. When there are too many materialistic activities by the people in general all over the world, there is no wonder that a person or a nation attacks another person or nation on slight provocation. That is the rule of this age of Kali or quarrel. The atmosphere is already polluted with corruption of all description, and everyone knows it well. There are so many unwanted literatures full of materialistic ideas of sense gratification. In many countries, there are bodies appointed by the state to detect and censor obscene literature. This means that neither the government nor the responsible leaders of the public want such literature, yet it is in the marketplace because the people want it for sense gratification. The people in general want to read, that is a natural instinct. But because their minds are polluted, they want such literature, yet it is in the but because their minds are polluted, they want such literatures. Under the circumstances, transcendental literature like Srimad Bhagavatam will not only diminish the activities of the corrupt mind of the people in general, but also it will supply food for their hankering after reading some interesting literature. In the beginning, they may not like it because one suffering from jaundice is reluctant to take sugar cane or sugar candy. But we should know that sugar candy is the only remedy for jaundice. Similarly, let there be systematic propaganda for popularizing reading of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, which will act like sugar candy for the jaundice-like condition of sense gratification. When men have a taste for this literature, the other literatures which are catering poison to society will then automatically cease. We are sure, therefore, that everyone in human society will welcome Srimad Bhagavatam, even though it is now presented with so many faults. For it is recommended by Sri Narada, who has very kindly appeared in this chapter. Haribo! Jai Srila Narada Muni ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai. So what a purport. What to say? We've already said something. And this is the real thing. This is the revolution. we're gonna see how much time do we have, Kavi?
We have as much as you can give us, but officially till 10 o'clock, but as much as you can give us, Maharaj.
Okay, well, 10 o'clock means 10 o'clock what? Your time, my time, whose time?
That is our time, meaning remaining about 90 minutes no more now.
19 minutes.
Officially, but as long
You're joking.
we can go
Okay.
as long as you have time for us.
Took 20 minutes to read a purport. What a purport, huh? I mean, what could you say? I mean, just see under the surface the humility of Srila Prabhupada. You know, yeah, I mean, people may say there's faults, and he said there are so many from the mundane point of view. You'll see so many faults here. I'm just trying. He doesn't have to do this. Srila Prabhupada doesn't have to do any of these things. He's only doing it to help the world, to help everyone to please Krishna, and in such a humble way. Every endeavor, Krishna says, is covered by fault. Do you think other people's not covered by fault? The biggest mistake of all, 2 + 2 = 3, is a premise, a fault right from the beginning. Right from the beginning, there's a maha fault. They're thinking with the body. They're thinking, I'm this body. This material world is for our enjoyment and belongs to us. This is the maha fault, the maha foolishness. Maha murka. I won't tell the story. Story of Maha Murka. Great fools. They think they're the proprietors. They think they're the enjoyers. They think they're the owners. And therefore there's no peace. Bhuktaram yagatapasam sarvaloka maheshram suridam sarvabhutanam yatvam shanti michati. There's no peace in this world because people do not know that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer of everything. They don't know he's our real friend. They don't know he's the proprietor. They're in ignorance. As long as we're thieves, basically every conditioned soul is a thief, no matter who they are, political or even in other species of life. We're all in the mentality of thieves, thinking this is for me, this is mine. It's meant for Krishna. This is the revolution. And this is what people are really looking for. They don't know it. They're kept in ignorance and alone. Nobody else in this age is spreading this message around the world. And now others are joining in. But if Prabhupada alone spread this message of Krishna consciousness, and he's praying and begging. If you read in the songbook, Srila Prabhupada, in his first writing in Boston, knew when he arrived in Boston on September the 18th, 1965, Srila Prabhupada wrote his Markandeya Bhagavat Dharma. And if you read that, just see the depth of Srila Prabhupada's humility, the depth of his love for his spiritual master, for Krishna, and for all living entities. He's just praying to Krishna, please, please, my Lord, make my words suitable for their understanding, because only if they can understand this message of Bhagavatam will they be delivered from this ignorance. This is not for some material goal. This Srimad Bhagavatam is for the soul. It's to awaken the soul, to relieve. We're fighting over nothing. As Prabhupada said here, India, China, for centuries, peaceful. Now they're fighting over useless land, some rocks in the Himalayas. Greed, ignorance, madness. The whole world is just intoxicated. We need, now they're worried about the pandemic, okay? And they're looking for some kind of a vaccine to make us feel we won't get, but then there'll be something else. There's no end. It goes on because the basic premise is wrong. When you add up 2 and 2, you have to come to 4. If you come to 3, no matter what else we do, we're wrong. And to think we're the body, everything we do, Prabhupada says the greatest sin is to think we're the body. Why? Because all other sins come from that. Yeah? If we know we're not the body, what the heck are we doing? Why are we messing around, causing ourselves suffering in the name of trying to enjoy? Eating this, drinking that, doing this, listening to this is all nonsense, complete nonsense in reality. There's a way of transforming the nonsense into reality or into usefulness, but for most people it's not. They don't know the science, the techniques of spiritual life, which Srimad Bhagavatam teaches. The whole science, there's no time to go into all the details, just touching the surface. But Srimad Bhagavatam is unlimited. It's an unlimited ocean of nectar, of truth, of spiritual essence. And Srila Prabhupada dedicated. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to read something. You can, I don't know. Yeah, you'll still be able to see me because this is, you can see me. Oh, see the unfortunate picture of me, whatever it is. I'm going to read something about Prabhupada. This is actually from, this one is from Lilamrita. We're going to go back only to 1922. You could go back 5,000 years ago. We could briefly go back 5,000 years ago when Vyasadeva compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam. But before that, as you may know, he compiled many scriptures, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, the Vedanta Sutra, and so many other scriptures were compiled, the Vedas, of course, put into composition by Srila Vyasadeva. What an offering. Well, I mean, nobody could conceive of anyone, especially 5,000 years ago, when according to history, according to science, anthropologists, etc., they were cavemen, more or less. And they were illiterate, ignorant, but the most erudite, beautiful language. I mean, even its written form it's incredible. It leaves every other language in the dust, the Sanskrit language, as far as its writing, its poetic nature, its depth of understanding, etc. It's the most refined language that ever existed. It leaves all the other languages of the world like, baby batter and blah, blah, blah. Sanskrit language is just perfect, completely perfect, and not easy to understand or learn. But it was compiled by illiterate fools, according to modern theory, madness, and they're studying it to try to understand it. But anyway, this is their humility. So going back 5,000 years ago, Narada Muni came along. There's Vyasadeva. He's compiled all these amazing scriptures, and he's still not happy. Still not happy. And Narada Muni comes along, feeling undone, Prabhu. Yeah, feeling undone. You're not satisfied. Why? I'll tell you why. Because you're misleading the people. You're writing all these literatures. Good, all good, but you've missed the point. People will get thinking the goal of life will be material or liberation, heavenly elevation. You're doing the greatest disservice, my dear Prabhu. You're doing a great disservice by misleading people. We would think quite the opposite. It's like Arjuna on the Bhagavad Gita. Everyone would think Arjuna is the good guy, and this Krishna is inciting nasty behavior. This rascal Krishna, he's telling Arjuna to kill, to fight. And Arjuna's the good guy. No, we will not fight. If they want to win, let them have it. We will not fight. People will think, good, peace, pacifist, good old Arjuna. And Krishna's calling him a damn fool, you nonsense. Get up, fight, kill. It doesn't sound very peaceful. Why? Because people have no idea what the goal of life is. They don't understand what this viplavaha, this revolution, is not a revolution like our modern day revolution. It's a revolution of consciousness. It's not like people say. One time I won't mention. It's a revolution of consciousness. Change of consciousness, not a change of politics, not a change of who's in charge, not a change of the economic reset or whatever it is they're up to. It's a change of consciousness. So this change of consciousness is the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, is giving this direction, how to change our consciousness. You can carry on. Okay, no problem. Carry on with one's business. It's just a change of consciousness from me in the center, Ishavasam, idam sarvam, yakinchajavatyam jagat, tena chaktena bunjitam agadikashya svidanam. Krishna in the center, Ishavasam society, that's all. Ishavasam, whatever we want to call it, capitalism, communism, thisism, thatism. But when Krishna's in the center, it becomes all good. Problems go away because everything, Krishna looks after everything. He takes care of the devotees. He takes care. But when we're seeing ourselves in the center, clash, rivalry, quarrels, envy, pride, greed, etc., 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 and consequent karmic reactions in the form of suffering take place. This is the misfortune. But Vyasadeva What do I do? So Narada Muni says, now you must compile the beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam, which is wholly and solely directed towards the glorification of the Supreme Personality of God, of the fountainhead of everything, the root of everything. Go to the root, point the direction. It's all very well giving directions left and right, but you have to know what the goal is, what the final goal of it is. No point just teaching someone how to play football if you don't teach them the goal. The goal, what is the ultimate goal? Is to develop or awaken our love of Krishna. And Srimad Bhagavatam is aimed at that point. So in 1922, Prabhupada goes back. In this connection, we may call to memory the time when I was fortunate enough to meet His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Now, this is our Prabhupada talking about his Prabhupada. To meet His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, sometime in the year 1922. Srila Prabhupada had come to Calcutta from Sridhar Mayapur to start the missionary activities of the Gaudiya Math. He was sitting in the house in Altadunga when through the inducement of an intimate friend, the late Sriman Narendranath Mullik, I had the opportunity to meet His Divine Grace for the first time. I do not remember the actual date of the meeting, but at that time, I was one of the managers of Dr. Bose's laboratory in Calcutta. Just give me a second, please. Okay. I was a newly married young man addicted to Gandhi's movement and dressed in khadi. Fortunately, even at our first meeting, His Divine Grace advised me to preach the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in English in the Western countries. Because at that time I was a complete nationalist, a follower of Mahatma Gandhi's, I submitted to His Divine Grace that unless our country were free from foreign subjugation, no one would hear our message, the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, seriously. Of course, we had some argument on this subject, but at last I was defeated and convinced that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message is the only panacea for suffering humanity. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, his message is the propagation of Srimad Bhagavatam also. And Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj was very grave and very sober and very stern when he answered that this message of Srimad Bhagavatam, this message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cannot wait. There is no such thing as independence in this world. This message cannot wait. It is so vital for the world. Now it needs to be preached. He was very strong to such an extent that Srila Prabhupada was convinced of this Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's message. He was convinced that the message of Lord Chaitanya is in the hands of the right person. And he took shelter and was empowered to spread the Srimad Bhagavatam, to spread the holy name all over the world by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, you could say. But this was his business. Sometimes eternal associates take what appear to be mundane roles, like an addicted follower of Gandhi. Yes, to show people in general the highest point, the highest, if people just come from a failure in life or just some, position of being a loser in life, then that's not very convincing. But when someone's a follower of Gandhi and then they give that up to take up Srimad Bhagavatam, to take up Krishna consciousness, you can understand this is a higher purpose. This is a higher taste, because most people are really on the mundane platform. When Peaceway Prabhupada said, if only the leaders of society would take this, then people will follow. Yada charity shreshtas tadevi tarojanaha siyat pamanam kurute lokastada nirvartate. Krishna says, whatever great men do, common men follow. Whatever standards they set by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. But Srila Prabhupada took this to heart through his whole life. This instruction, which he then received at their first meeting, I was convinced that this message is the only panacea. I was convinced that the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was then in the hands of a very expert devotee. Surely the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would spread all over the world. I could not, however, immediately take up his instructions to preach, but I took his words very seriously and was always thinking of how to execute his order, although I was quite unfit to do so. In 1936, just before His Divine Grace passed away at Jagannath Puri, I wrote him a letter asking what I could do to serve him. He wrote me a letter dated 13th of December, 1936, ordering me in the same way to preach in English the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as I had heard it from him. In any case, when I had published Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, in 3 volumes in India, I thought of going to the USA. By the mercy of his divine grace, I was able to come to New York on September 17th, 1965. Since then, I have translated many books, including Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and many others. That was just Prabhupada's recollection of that first meeting and how he was convinced of the importance of this message of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now we're going to jump forward a little bit. Where should we go? Yes. Okay. This is in 1956. Prabhupada had, of course, retired from his family life. His Guru Maharaj had passed away. Basically speaking, the mission of his Guru Maharaj and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj said, well, we'll read that in a minute, but he'd passed away, and Srila Prabhupada was basically alone, trying to preach. Other godbrothers were doing locally, but he had this worldwide vision to spread Krishna consciousness everywhere, to everywhere, Africa, in Asia, America, Europe, Australasia, South America, everywhere. Spread the holy name, spread the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the greatest welfare work, Tapakatamritam Tapta Jivanam. Those who spread this message of the Bhagavatam are the greatest welfare workers. Radharani has explained this. What to speak of others? Srimati Radha herself has said this is the greatest welfare work that we can do, is to live and spread Srimad Bhagavatam around the world. So Prabhupada wrote this letter to the then President of the United States, Rajendra Prasad. Please, therefore, he wrote, save them from the great fall down. Believe me or not, Prabhupada wrote, I have got the clue of going back to Godhead just after leaving my present material body. And in order to take along with me all of my contemporary men and women of the world, I have started my paper Back to Godhead as one of the means to the way. Please do not think of me as a wonderful or a madman when I say that I shall go back to Godhead after leaving my present material body. It is quite possible for every and all of us, everyone and all of us. Srila Prabhupada was petitioning the President of India, please help, take this up. Prabhupada did this again and again. Anyone, of course, with some people like George Harrison, they took it seriously. They really did assist Prabhupada in enormous ways. But generally they don't. They're too attached to their, whatever position, situation that they're in, etc. And Prabhupada was so attached to his Guru and so attached to Krishna, he was fearless, starting a one-man revolution. Who's heard of it? Now, another name of revolution, by the way, is civil disobedience. It's one of the definitions of revolution in the dictionary. Quite interesting, because Lord Chaitanya started a civil disobedience movement. And Prabhupada, in a similar way, but different, you could say, he started a civil disobedience movement because although it's imperceptible in many ways, because nothing looks like going on very much, just some silly people going out chanting Hare Krishna, but an incredible change of consciousness taking place. Change of consciousness. Most of us, when we first started chanting Hare Krishna, not everyone, but mostly, don't want to eat meat anymore, don't want to take intoxication anymore, lose a taste for overindulgence in sex life and things like that. It's incredible. It's an amazing effect. The mantra is Krishna. Bhagavatam is Krishna. When we come in contact with Krishna, then our hearts become, he's pavitram. He purifies our hearts. That means he purifies our consciousness. The more we come in contact with Srimad Bhagavatam, the more our hearts can become purified. It's a very simple science. And then naturally, one wants to distribute the Bhagavatam to others. Yes, this is the beautiful movement which Srila Prabhupada has given the world. Now we're going forward to 1961. Srila Prabhupada has taken sannyas. He's just about to embark upon his writing of Srimad Bhagavatam. Up to then, he'd been writing BTG, back to Goddard, 1 or 2 small books, trying to preach here and there, tried to go to Japan to preach. Different things he tried, but were not working. And then he got an indication from one friend that said, look, why don't you write books? And Srila Prabhupada got the inspiration to write, yes, the most important literature of all, Srimad Bhagavatam. The world is devoid of this knowledge. Let me write the Srimad Bhagavatam, inspired by his spiritual master. He then undertook the great task of writing Srimad Bhagavatam. But just on the eve of his writing Srimad Bhagavatam and commentary, he went to Vrindavan, was in Vrindavan, he was living in 61, he was living in Keshigat. He moved into 62, he moved into Radha Damodar, but at that time he was in Keshigat. He was between Keshigat and Chippiwada in Delhi. Most of it, half the time in Delhi, half the time in Vrindavan, more or less, writing in Delhi and in Vrindavan, and trying to publish his magazine and then his books, and now Srimad Bhagavatam. And just at the eve of this most historic event, when Prabhupada began his great mission of presenting Bhagavatam to the world, he made an offering to his spiritual master on his spiritual master's birth appearance day, his Vyasa Puja day. I'm just going to read a few lines from that poem or that offering. Prabhupada wrote, and by this time the Gaudiya Math was just basically a cross-section of so many individuals just running their own mats and doing a little local preaching. But it was not at all unified. There was no mission, there was no vision for spreading Krishna consciousness beyond the realms of India, not even that, beyond the realms of their own mat in most cases. But Srila Prabhupada was really not in that mood at all. He took sannyas for fulfilling his guru's instruction to preach the message of Krishna consciousness in English all over the world. So in that mood, this is what Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj's mission is to preach the message, not just to talk about it, but to actually distribute the message as Lord Chaitanya ordered everyone to do all over the world. So Prabhupada wrote, many of his godbrothers were gathered there in Vrindavan. Even now, my godbrothers, you return here on the order of our master, and together we engage in this puja. But simply a festival of flowers and fruits does not constitute worship. The one who serves the message of the Guru really worships him. Oh, shame, my dear brothers, aren't you embarrassed? In the manner of businessmen, you increase your disciples. Our master said to preach, let the neophytes remain inside the temples and simply ring the bells. But just take a good look at the terrible situation that has arisen. Everyone has become a sense enjoyer and has given up preaching. From the seas across the earth, penetrate the universal shell, come together and preach this Krishna consciousness. Then our master's service will be in proper order. Make your promise today. Give up all your politics and diplomacy. If the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati could join and preach together, this is a commentary, if they could join together, there was every chance that they could create a spiritual revolution within the sinful world. That has been the hope. That had been the hope of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and Bhaktivedanta Swami expressed that hope in his Vyasa Puja offering. When will that day come? When he carried on, when will that day come? When a temple will be established in every house, in every corner of the world. When will the High Court judge be a Gaudiya Vaishnava with tilak beautifully decorating his forehead? When will a Vaishnava winning votes be elected president of the land and preaching be spread everywhere? Those were Prabhupada's, some of his words in that offering which he made. Of course, it wasn't taken very well by most of the godbrothers. It was almost like an attack on their position. But this was Prabhupada's mood, building up to his coming to the Western world. He was alone, preaching alone in the wilderness, he said. Preaching alone in the wilderness. Here we are now. Maybe in Africa you also have so many volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, only because Prabhupada performed a surrendered sacrifice for the welfare of the world, to spread this revolutionary mission of Krishna consciousness. It's a revolution which everybody will be benefited by. It's not our idea and you have to submit. We all know how revolutions are. So many of the population perish as a result of a so-called revolution. And then later on, that revolution is overcome by another one. One nation overcomes another. One philosophy overcomes another. One theory overcomes another. It's not getting anywhere. This is the revolution which will release us all from the prison of this material world, with all of its anxiety and sufferings and all the other unwanted disturbances. As later on in this same canto, Anartha Pashamam Shakshad Bhakti Yoga Hokshaje. There we find Sutta Goswami explains how this the anomalies, the sufferings of the living entity are superfluous to the soul. They have nothing really to do with the soul. It's only because we're in ignorance, in illusion, that we're experiencing the sufferings of this world. Can be counteracted immediately by the linking process of devotional service. But the people in general do not know this. Therefore, Srila Vyasadeva has compiled this Srimad Bhagavatam to counteract all these anomalies, all these falsities which people are taking as realities. This is the only solution. The message of Srimad Bhagavatam is so important. Prabhupada, what is this? In Calcutta, I don't know the time, but the date's not given. But Prabhupada was in Calcutta. He said, never mind if it is imperfectly composed, imperfectly done. We must execute the orders of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I may not be so expert in delivering the message of Krishna, but my duty is to try to my best capacity how to distribute this knowledge to the suffering humanity. So Prabhupada, when he was in Chippiwada and so on, there's a nice little commentary here. Day and night he typed at his desk beneath the small adjustable light that dangled from the ceiling on its cord. He sat on a thin mat, his back a large pyramid that stood oddly upright within the bare room. Pages accumulated, and he kept them in place with stones. Food and sleep, although necessary, were only incidental. He was completely convinced that the Srimad Bhagavatam would create a revolution in a misdirected civilization. Thus he translated each word and gave each purport with exacting care and concentration. But it had to be done as quickly as possible. Yes, Prabhupada was sitting alone. Don't forget, nowadays, even to publish a book, there's editors, proofreaders. To try to get a book published, you see what it's like. You can just do if you wish. But generally speaking, so many people checking. Prabhupada had nothing. He did everything. He wrote, he commented, he edited, he proofread, he went to the printers, he oversaw the printing, he published. He had no publisher. He did everything. And then he distributed. He took those books to the Western world with him, 200 sets of the first 3 volumes of Bhagavatam. They were his strength. He took them with him. Can we do something to stop the noise? I'm just going to read. When Prabhupada left Calcutta on August 13th, 1965, he then, in Cochin, in Kerala, the boat stopped, and there he picked up those Bhagavatams, which had been shipped from Bombay to Cochin, and then they were then put on board in trunks, big containers, onto the boat, onto the Jaladuta, along with some pamphlets, which were put together. Mr. Choksi, who was the secretary of Samadhi Maharaj, had put this together. Of course, Prabhupada told him what to write, but he'd arranged this, and he sent them with the books to Cochin. So he had this, and this is just the first little line of those pamphlets. Little pamphlets advertising Srimad Bhagavatam Prabhupada took with him. Srila Prabhupada's pamphlet for the spreading of Lord Krishna's teaching. It's called Srimad Bhagavatam, India's Message of Peace and Goodwill. 60 volumes of elaborate English version by Tridandi Goswami, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, carried by the Scindia Steam Navigation Company Limited, Bombay. All over the world, it said, for scientific knowledge of God. The sufferings of the entire human society can at once be brought under control simply by individual practice of Bhakti Yoga, a simple and easy process of chanting the holy name of God. Every country, every nation, and every community throughout the world has some conception of the holy name of God, and as such, either the Hindus or the Mohammedans or the Christians, everyone can easily chant the holy name of God in a meditative mood, and that will bring about the required peace and goodwill in the present problematic human society. So this was the message of the Bhagavatam, of course, is to chant the name, the beautiful name, form, pastimes, and qualities of Krishna, beginning with the name. By chanting the name purely, spreading the holy name, Krishna will reveal himself. Okay, well, Prabhupada, we run out of time, of course, but Prabhupada's mood was a different type of revolution. As we meant, it's a consciousness revolution. He also had, several times, he said this is a cultural revolution. Cultural revolution is one based, basically speaking, on Varna Ashram. It's not dancing and prancing around on the stage doing what we now call culture, blasting out some, loud music on guitars or something. That is not what Prabhupada means by culture. Culture means the way society is structured in a way that it helps to cultivate our Krishna consciousness, division of society in such a way which is favorable for the evolving growth of individuals' Krishna consciousness. That's the culture. And when he wrote his constitution in 1965, it's been worded differently, but when the original constitution, Prabhupada wanted to instigate, wanted to employ the Varnashram system in society. This is one essential part of his revolution. It wasn't, the main thing is the chanting of the holy name and propagation of the message, but it also included societal organization, which of course is a little bit off at the moment, to say the least. Hopefully, if we ever become eligible and qualified, there will be some recognition of this and ability to, if necessary, if that's what Krishna wills, to develop this in a more practical, realistic way for the benefit of all. This is always the mood of Srila Prabhupada, how to bring happiness and peace in the world. That was another one of the techniques of spiritual life, to bring unity and peace in this world. To teach those techniques, and amongst them is the society organizing society. So they are not interested, Prabhupada said, in all these. He's talking about us, devotees or aspiring disciples he's talking about. They are not interested in all this political affairs or so-called social affairs and resolution, because they know that this is not the method of becoming peaceful or prosperous. This is not the method. Without harim vina namiting taranti, without God consciousness, no one can be happy. Therefore, he writes something, if a devotee writes something about Krishna consciousness, God consciousness, here, Srimad Bhagavatam says that Tadvad Visargo Janataga Viplava. Jana means people, Aga means sin, the sinful people, Viplava, or the sinful behavior of the living beings. Viplava is destroyed, has to be killed. And the Srimad Bhagavatam will kill these sinful proclivities which we all have. Therefore, such kind of creative energy which is trying to put something for understanding of Krishna consciousness, Janataga Viplava, that brings a revolution to the people for killing their effect of sinful activity. Janataga, people in general, kill the sins. Aga means sins. And that can be. Oh, what can it be? Let's see. Come on. There we go. That can be by such literature, spreading such literature, Krishna conscious literature, there will be a revolution in the sinful activities of the people in general. Janataga Viplavaha, Pinapi Pada Chatroyam Bhagavat Yasha Padanam Yashtochak Pavitram Icha Tad Vag Pavitra Iti. It is so pure. What is called? Disinfected. The whole world is infected with the Maya's influence, and this Krishna conscious movement, Hare Krishna mantra, is disinfectant. Viplava means it kills. Just like we're trying to kill the pandemic with some kind of vaccine or protect people from it. Whatever. Similarly, the pandemic of illusion, Maya, Materialism can be killed. Viplavaha, Janataga. The sinful nature of the living entities can be killed by exposure to Srimad Bhagavatam. Those who have seriously taken to it, they immediately stop the sinful infections. All other sinful activities will come one after another. They will, those four basic principles, Prabhupada said, I'm summarizing. The four basic principles of sinful activity are you can say, the pillars of all other sinful activities. All the other types, stealing and cheating and lying and so many other things, which go on in society. If these four are dealt with, it will bring to control the other ones also. They're also resting on those four pillars. People don't know that, but they are. And those who've taken seriously the Krishna consciousness, giving up these four activities, the other ones can also go away. And how can it be maintained? By this disinfectant method. Chanting Hare Krishna. Chanting Hare Krishna. So this revolution which Prabhupada started is not a concoction. It's not his concoction. He's just repeating. Prabhupada said the real revolution is I'm not saying anything new. I'm just repeating what the Acharyas said, what the Paramparas said, what Krishna said, what Vyasadeva said. He's simply presenting it in modern language, modern context, but it's the same message. It's not. What is this revolution? It's to give up thinking that we can make things work, change. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said, one who thinks that they can reform this world is in need of reform. No one can reform this world but by the breadth of a hair. Everything is being perfectly managed or organized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The only reform which is required is the reform of our own consciousness, and that is evoked by exposing ourselves to the transcendental sound vibration of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we're going to have to finish there because we were going to read some more, but we'll finish there. It's been a pleasure to be with you. If there are any questions or comments, this verse and purport, it could be a whole book in themselves. Is one of those key verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, which opens the door to an unending treasure house of jewels, transcendental jewels, which shine into this material world to open our blinded vision, give us some torchlight in this dark age of Kali Krishneshwar Dhammapakate, bring a little light into this world. So, okay, any questions on the ground level there?
Maharaj, can they ask you a question directly instead of writing?
If everyone can hear you, or should I repeat it?
No, I mean whether the devotee can ask you personally instead of writing. Maybe some people have
it can be organized as long as everyone can hear the question.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay. George Amega, please unmute yourself and ask Maharaj question.
Pardon?
A devotee is going to ask question.
Dandavat Pranam Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Rosha Prabhupada.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
I see you've got a bookshop. You're in a shop.
Yes, please. Yeah, I'm at the workplace. Yes, please. Yeah. My question is, in the course of your reading, you may mention that Srila Prabhupada laments about when a devotee will become a high court judge. Please, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Host.
I can't hear.
Can you hear me?
Did you get that, Kelly?
Okay. Please, my question is, the cost of reading, you may mention that the Prabhupada laments about when will a high court judge become a Vaishnava with Tilak. My question is, in Africa, for that matter, Ghana here, to be specific, when a devotee engage even in politics, then we give him some kind of name, is a Mayata, something like that sort. But meanwhile, to become a high court judge in Africa, you need to align yourself with politics in order to be assumed that position. So I would like to know how practical can a devotee practice this in order to assume that position, whereby there will not be nothing like this Maya that which you always assume here in Ghana, to be specific. All right, thank you. That's my simple question.
you put that in a nutshell, Kavi?
Yes, Maharaj. Let me just summarize his question. His question is that you mentioned it during your class that Prabhupada said that when a devotee become a high court judge with tilak on his face, and in Africa here or anywhere in the world, for you to become high court judge, you must engage in politics and all the rest. And here in Africa, if devotee is engaging in politics, other devotee will say that it's a Maya. So how can we understand this?
Yeah, well, it might be. I don't know. Prabhupada did encourage in about 1975 or something in America. Balavanta Prabhu started a political party in God We Trust, but he stopped it after a while. The messy world. Now, I'm going to take you back to 1968 to Montreal. Prabhupada was in a conversation there with the devotees, 68, I think it's 67 or 68, one or the other. And they're discussing this point. And Prabhupada said, no, we do not become. We have to preach in such a way that they become Krishna conscious. Not that we become them, they become Krishna conscious. The High Court judge becomes Krishna conscious. The politician becomes Krishna, not that we become politics, or we become judges, or that we become this or that. They become Krishna conscious. They carry on being politicians, they carry on being bankers, judges, or whatever it is, but they're Krishna conscious. That's preaching. Preaching is not that we do it, but we convince others to do what they're doing. And Prabhupada said that is expert. That is expert. Is, you know, whatever we can do, we do that in Krishna consciousness. We cannot imitate. And he said, don't try to imitate. Ishopanishad, Prabhupada writes, teaches us to play the part designated to us by God and not to imitate others. Huh? So Prabhupada said in that conversation, he said, just like a baby calf takes the milk from its mother. Expert. It doesn't go to school or college. It doesn't have to have a degree in milking. It automatically does it. If you only know how to make flowers, just make flowers for Krishna. Fantastic. He said, if you don't know how to drive a car, don't drive a car. You do what you're expert at. Do it. But do it for Krishna. That's expert, he said. He was asked that question. So that's my understanding, what Prabhupada said, how this is to be enacted. That we have to try to preach. We may not be able to go to the High Court judge or the politician. We go to who we can. And then they go to who they can. And they go. And in this way, it gradually spreads. And eventually it reaches the High Court judge. Somebody along the line is a friend or relative of the High Court judge. Somewhere along the line, it might get to them also. That's the idea. We preach wherever we can. Spread the Krishna conscious movement and chant Hare Krishna everywhere. Is that okay?
I think so, Maharaj. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Maharaj, we have His Grace Saade Prabhu. Please, can you unmute yourself and ask Maharaj your question directly?
Where's Sahadev? Is he there or not?
Yeah, he's
I
there.
have a lot of questions on chat, by the way.
Okay.
Why don't we do this? I'll take one chat and one voice, okay?
Okay, Maharaj. Okay, Maharaj.
Let's see what's on chat. This is from Ushadas. Oh, no, this is from Sahadev. This is on okay.
Yes, Maharaj.
Question is about Srila Prabhupada. His statement in the purport that divine literature should be relished even if imperfectly composed. How do we relate this statement to revision of Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is? I personally do not find editing to the Gita to be improper anyway. We pray and hope you will in the very near future bless us again. Okay, well, I'll take the question. I don't know if I can bless anyone in the past, present, or future. I need blessing or blasting myself. Okay, well, this is a question. I don't want to enter into, let's say, this area of sensitivity in the Society of ISKCON. Some devotees are quite adamant about these points. But the point being is the essence is what counts. It's like medicine. If it's presented in a rough cup or a smooth cup. Prabhupada gave the example of food. And he gave the example of the prostitute one time. Huh? And this man who was crippled, and he had a very faithful wife. This crippled man was very poor, and he was very attached to this beautiful prostitute. So he did he wanted, crazy as it sounds, he wanted to enjoy with the prostitute, even though he's crippled and not in any position, poverty-stricken. And his wife found out why he was so miserable, that he wanted to enjoy with this beautiful prostitute. So she thought, I've got to satisfy my husband. So she went to the prostitute when she wasn't there and cleaned her house and did all kinds of menial service. The prostitute thought, who's this coming into my house and doing this? And one day the prostitute hid herself to find out. And she's found this lady doing all these things. Said, why are you doing this? And then the wife of this cripple explained to the prostitute why. And then the prostitute said, all right then, I'm so impressed by you. You bring your husband here and I will satisfy him. So she did. She brought her husband there. This is a chastity we're not aware of nowadays, of course. But she brought her husband there and left her husband with a prostitute. The prostitute was very high-class prostitute. She always cooked a feast for her clients. So she cooked a big feast and she put all the preparations in 2 or 3 pots. One was made of iron, clay, copper, gold, or whatever. And she said, okay, I'll taste a bit from this one and a bit from that one and a bit from that one. Well, you think, oh, the gold pot must be nice, huh? It must be the good thing. So she tasted from the gold pot. He tasted the gold pot and he tasted from the clay pot and this pot and that pot. What's the difference? The taste is the same. Taste is the same. The message is the same. Externally, there may be some grammar changes. If the message is changed, that's a different thing. I'm not going to get into it. But if grammatically, revision, Prabhupada wanted his books to be presented in a readable format. That's obvious. And we translate the books all over the world. And we're revising it somewhat to try to make it more understandable. The message, the main thing is the message. And I agree with you. Both volumes, I distribute both of them. I read both of them. To me, it's Prabhupada in both and it's Krishna in both. And I haven't got time to spend wrangling over whether this word should be in front of that word or not. We do not have time. We have no time. We have to get on with the message of Bhagavad Gita and preach it. That's the purpose of Krishna speaking to Arjuna, is that we preach the message. We preach the message. And we haven't got time to wrangle about all these details. If you like the old one, stick with it, but preach it, distribute the books and the new whatever you want to call it. Preach it, distribute it, live it. If it's not the right thing, you're going to find out, believe me, you will find out. That's Prabhupada's secret. He didn't change the message. He changed the words or the way it was written, but he didn't change the message. The message is the important. It's like an envelope. Whether the envelope's blue, green, square, or round, it really doesn't matter. It's what inside that counts. So the grammar and all these things are just like envelopes. It's the message, the powerful message of Krishna's words to Arjuna, which penetrates. But if we don't follow those words, if we don't preach those words, we'll be hung up on all the details only and become niyama agraha. It become niyama agraha. Simply rules and regulations, fanaticism. Prabhupada was a fanatic for preaching Krishna consciousness. He was not a fanatic for sticking to things if it doesn't work. He was a fanatic to do whatever works to spread the message of Krishna consciousness. Whatever works. I was reading a letter yesterday. Prabhupada said, in Vrindavan, it was from Vrindavan itself. And Prabhupada said, yes, this is a very good idea to bring Hatha Yogas here to the Krishna Balaram temple. And I will teach them how to do Hatha Yoga, Prabhupada said. I will teach them pranayam. I will teach them postures. And we will bring them to Krishna consciousness. This idea that nothing can be used is nonsense. Prabhupada would use anything to spread Krishna consciousness, as long as it was favorable. So we get hung up on all these little details. If we don't like it, just get on with what we can do and stop poking our nose into what others can do. Just get on with preaching Krishna consciousness. Sorry, got a bit heavy there. Hare Krishna. Next one.
Hey, Prabhu, please unmute yourself. You see, you have some more comment to make.
No, there's loads of things on the chat. Oh, they've all gone now. They've all disappeared.
Yeah, he's the only one who posted the question there.
No,
so Prabhu. Okay, Maharaj.
Okay. Hare Krishna, can I ask?
Yeah, please, you can speak. No, and let Maharaj see your face.
Okay.
Let
Who is
Maharaj
this? Is this who's speaking now?
Sade, Prabhu.
Maharaj Sahade.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna,
Maharaj.
Sahade. How's Nakula?
Hare
How's
Krishna,
your brother?
Maharaj.
I see you're in the hospital.
Yes,
Are you in the
Maharaj.
hospital?
Maharaj, my question is a follow-up to the first question. The answer you gave to the first question, that devotees try to preach to convince politicians to become devotees and not the other way around. We had one devotee who was actually running to become the president of the United States, Ms. Tulsi Gabbard. And I'm not sure if what you said like pertains to devotees living in the temple, or it refers to all congregational members. That's my question. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Sahadev Prabhu. I pray for you will be protected. Are you in a hospital?
It's a nursing home.
Nursing home. I pray that you're safe. So yes,
Thank you so much. I need it.
Hare Krishna. Well, Tulsi is already inclined. It's not that, we all have our inclinations, just like you're a carer. You're looking after people. You have an inclination. That would be the idea. People have inclinations. We don't deny it. If a devotee has an inclination for politics, that's okay. But, they're acting according to their nature. If you have a nature of a certain kind to be in law, fine. You do it, and you do it for Krishna. So it applies to everyone. Those, especially for our congregation, of course, because most of our congregation are working in different fields of the world around us. The devotees living in the temple, now, I don't know the situation in West Africa. I've seen 50 years of ashram life in various temples around the world. I mean, I've been mostly in Asia and Europe, but I've seen, the progress, or let's say the evolvement through the ashrams of so many devotees. And quite often, they evolve into various natures. We have, for example, somebody like Pushta Krishna Swami. He ended up being a surgeon, but he was a sannyasi at one point of time. But, obviously, everything has its time, but eventually he became a surgeon, medical. He had that inclination. So people have various things. I'm sitting in a room now in France, and my dear godbrother sat next to me. Gopaswami Prabhu was a brahmachari for some years. Then he became a medical doctor for 20 or 30 years. Now he's retired and he's living back in the temple again as one of the senior preachers here. People have their natural proclivities and inclinations, etc. So that can be encouraged. Sometimes it may be that the spiritual, let's say, message is even stronger. And even though a person may have a proclivity for a certain profession or activity, the spiritual drive is so strong that they just want to dedicate their whole time and life. They have no interest in getting, involved in married life or profession or whatever it is. That sometimes happens too. But generally speaking, we see that devotees oscillate or go towards their natural inclination at some point of time. And in ISKCON as it stands, we don't have a society in most places which is yet evolved to accommodate, some places a little bit more than others, but in general, not that much to accommodate the various proclivities of the devotees. They may be businessmen. And if a businessman starts managing a temple, that's not a very good use of his business proclivity in one sense. He can use his business proclivity to support the temple, but to manage it requires Brahminical tendency. Same thing, Kshatriyas, they organize society. They don't manage temples, they organize society. All the other people who have various proclivities are facilitated and protected by the Kshatriyas. But most people have no very strong proclivities, and they just like to work for others. So we haven't got to that point yet in ISKCON. We're in most places where there's much, let's say, facilitating for all of this. We all end up in the same bunch. You're either in or you're out. You're either a temple devotee or a congregational devotee, which is still the old paradigm of 1972. It's like we haven't grown much beyond that level, except for in quantity and in maturity of Krishna consciousness, hopefully. But in terms of, these type of things, socially speaking, there's been some growth, and in many places, but devotees have mostly taken it upon themselves to find their own positions. They stay outside, they work. Sometimes they render that service, and like Gopaswami Prabhu was with me. He looks after the health of devotees here in New Mayapur in France. He's a doctor. Although he's retired, he still has ability and knowledge. So to that extent, it's going on, but not as so much institutionalized or as this organized as a Varnashram system, which Prabhupada wanted when he came to London in 1977. He said he was on his way to Gita Nagari to show us how to establish this Varna ashram, which he was talking about a lot. So it's all related to that. So the moment we got devotees living in the congregation, we're doing great service, doing like yourself, a caregiver, or someone else who's in politics, or someone else who's in business, or someone else who's just working, whatever they're doing, teaching or something. Great service. And they're offering that as a service to the movement in whatever. Maybe they're just offering the fruits of their work, or maybe they're preaching in their own field. Fantastic. That's definitely good. But as well as that, I understood that Prabhupada wanted that we have their movement grows a little bit outside of the temple walls and becomes more of a community, more of a, an example for people to see of an actual society. Society includes everything. It doesn't just mean Brahmins. It includes everybody. So that's my understanding, because unless one's very Brahminically inclined, generally speaking, living in the temple is not something one does for one's whole life, generally. There may be exceptions to that, especially if over farms, restaurants, and so on. But in general, it's like that. If that's any use, that's my little bit on that. Thank you, Sahadev.
Maharaj, please, we have His Grace Gora Gopal Prabhu. Please unmute yourself and ask Maharaj question directly, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. This is your servant Gora Gopal Das.
Hi, Gora. Where are you?
Maharaj, I'm in Nigeria right now.
Nigeria right now, eh?
Yes, Maharaj. So maybe one day we can meet back in Manchester and have a our usual Harinam.
We don't know what the future is going to be. Let's see.
Yes, Maharaj. Your talk was a good one as well. So it will be nice to either join you in France or somewhere, or in England somewhere. And so you kind of covered my question, answered my question. Actually, it was very similar to Sahadev Prabhu's question about the different versions and the editions of the Gita and the books, and what are your thoughts on it. But you already covered it, Maharaj, so I really don't have a question.
Good to see you. Anyway,
maybe you should bless me, and then hopefully we can meet again in England somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be great. Be really
so
well. One thing is, a lot of us, it takes a long time before we find what we should really be doing. We got all these mixed proclivities, and we're trying this and we're trying that, and we're society kind of conditions us to think we should be like this and we should be like that sometimes also. And it's when we're really young that you usually find what our proclivities are, before the child is spoiled by education and by association and society pressure. When they're really young, that's when you really find out proclivities more. Usually, it's usually easier at that stage anyway. Of course, they would look at the plan, they would take astrology and all these things. Kali Yuga, I don't know how efficient that is either. But I do know one thing. You see, when a kid, I was in New Govardhan Farm in Australia. I lived there for a year one time on the farm. And I did an experiment. It wasn't really an experiment, but it turned out as an experiment. I re-established the community newsletter on the farm. I started doing the newsletter for them. And I engaged all the Gurukul kids in helping. And not all of them, whoever wanted to help. They would come down after school and help, to put collate the papers, to, do all the different tasks. And I could see there clearly proclivities coming out. One of them, I can mention three of them. There were three proclivities there because there was no Brahminical side involved then there. But one of them said, can I organize this? Can I organize it? And one of them said, how much are you going to pay me for doing this? Another one said, just tell me what to do. They were like just dull, just do what they say. Three totally different mindsets already. Young kids, 7, 8 years old. Mindset already there. Their nature was already clear. One was obviously into making money, business type of guy. The other was just a worker. The other one wanted to organize, It was so simple, so clear to see that. And then education is to bring that proclivity to its, out of that person to its, as far as it can go. This education means teaching a person like that. There may be a few things you learn aside from that, like, in language and stuff and maths or something. Very few, probably say. But, it's like that. It's to bring out the natural qualities in a man or a person. And that's education. That's real education. Instead of trying to make people be something they're not, and then finding out 40 years later you're doing the wrong thing, Then at 60 years old, you decide to get married. You decide, give up, being a full-time so-called brahmachari, go back to college again and take a degree in, whatever it is, engineering or something, as if you can do anything with it. That sometimes happens, or along those lines, Okay, learning curve. But it'd be better to start, an earlier point when we know, to find out what the proclivities are more. I mean, I know mine, although I didn't actually follow them through, practically speaking. But, for many people, we don't know what we should be doing. We just don't know. It's kind of a tough one because society is not geared towards, and we're not yet geared. They're starting, and ISKCON is starting. There's a lot of devotees who are really making this more possible for devotees to understand where they really belong, most effectively, to be Krishna conscious. I mean, if you're not Krishna conscious, how can you spread it? So when you're rightly situated, or more rightly situated, or more happily, or more peacefully situated, it's a lot easier to spread Krishna consciousness, I tell you that. Okay, thank you so much, Guru. Thank you, Sahadev. Pleasure. Is there anything else? There's some Kusha.
So,
Kusha?
Maharaj said?
Where's Kusha? Somebody named Kusha?
Yes, Kusha Prabhu is off and on. Is watching more on YouTube.
Oh, okay. I see his name on the screen.
Yes, Maharaj. So thank you very much, Maharaj, for blessing our platform. So we really appreciate it. And we want all devotees to please unmute themselves and let us appreciate Maharaj by chanting one Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Let us unmute ourselves and chant one Hare Krishna to thank Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Jai Jai. Hari Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Just chant Hare Krishna, okay? Hari Bol. Nothing else works. Keep chanting.
Chant Hare Krishna and be happy.
Yeah, well, you'd like to be happy, but please chant Hare Krishna. Hari Bol.
Krishna Kirtana Ganana Veera Dhira Jana
आप इधर से निकालेगा क्या मालूम क्या करेंगे आप इधर रखो आप जाना आदमी लगेगा जाएंगे मालूम क्यों है आदमी
Krishna Kirtana Ganana Nartana Prabhu Premamritam Banidhi Veera Veera Jana Priya Priya Karo